What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. And in today's video, we are here to talk about the Detroit Lions' new quarterback, Jared Goff, once again. You might as well just call this Jared Goff week at this point. But we're talking about the Lions' new quarterback. But today, I wanted to go through the pairing of Jared Goff and Anthony Lynn and why I have reasons to believe I think those two could absolutely thrive together, and why I think this is actually a very good situation for both sides since this trade went down. I think going forward, it's a good spot for Jared Goff, and it's a good spot for the Rams. So let's get it started.
We're going to bite a kneecap off, and we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Welcome everybody to a video. Glad you guys are here. And yes, we have a couple of things to talk about in this video. So we're going to go through some of my thoughts on Jared Goff and the pairing with Anthony Lynn and the differences that we will see in terms of scheme. And I also want to talk about why I think this was actually a good move for both sides. Why I think this trade really benefits both sides. And then at the end of the video, you guys can skip it if you want and go skip to watch it if you want. It's up to you. We're going to take a look at some Jared Goff film against the Green Bay Packers in his playoff game this past season where they lost 32-18. But I just wanted to look at some clips there. It's like the last 13 minutes of the video. So I know the video looks long, but it's not as long if you don't watch the film. So you can check it out if you want. You don't have to, but that is at the end. Now we're going to get right into this thing because I'm recording this after I did the other video. And yes, I will change shirts a couple of times. I know. Enjoy the video. I'll see you guys at the end. Thank you everybody for clicking on. The Detroit Lions had a lot of turnover this offseason, not only in the staff, but also in the roster. I mean, you changed your staff completely. You have a new front office look. I mean, you changed a lot of things, but then you also changed the roster. And let's be real, this is a new era in Detroit with a new quarterback. I mean, this will be the first new quarterback that I remember for the Detroit Lions, aside from Matthew Stafford. So it's very intriguing to me, and I'm very interested in Jared Goff, and I'm just trying to learn everything that I possibly can about Jared Goff. But then you add to that with a new offensive coordinator, a guy like Anthony Lynn. Now there's 2 unknowns, and they're pairing together. So there's a lot of things that I can continue to dive into, but I have reasons to believe that these two could really thrive together. The environment around Jared Goff has been that we're going to tailor this offense around what you like to do, what your strengths are, really what you're comfortable in offensively. I mean, that's how we're going to build the offense, is kind of the idea. And apparently Jared Goff feels empowered by what the coaches are doing. Dan Campbell had Jared Goff in for a physical that he's like, hey, if you like to do something, we'll do that. If you don't like something, say you don't like it, we won't run that offensively. Basically, the idea of this offseason has been we're building this offense around you, Jared Goff. Also, the same mindset that a guy like Anthony Lynn has. And actually going back to 2016, and we'll dive into this a little bit more in a second, but going back to 2016, I found this quote from Anthony Lynn. Now, he was the offensive coordinator at this time, the Buffalo Bills, and he said this: as a former player, I realize it's a player's game, which requires seeking their inputs and trusting what they tell you. The same guy in 2016 back with the Buffalo Bills, what he was saying is kind of the same thing that he's saying now and what the Lions are doing now. We know that the offense that he was with the LA Rams was definitely different than what he did back in college, right? Back in college at Cal, he ran almost exclusively out of the shotgun and the pistol. He almost never played under center. 99.8% of his snaps were not under center. Think about that. That's crazy. They were a very up-tempo offense, which I could see come back, and we'll get into that. But very different from what he did with the LA Rams, because with the LA Rams, with Sean McVay in that span, 59% of the time they're under center. That's the most in the NFL. So that's a complete flip-flop. I mean, you expect it to change a little bit, but it completely flipped. And a big reason for that is that Sean McVay, remember, he did not draft Jared Goff. We don't know if Sean McVay would have drafted Jared Goff, let's say, if he was there, but he didn't draft Jared Goff. Sean McVay came over, he took over when Jared Goff was here, so he put his scheme to the player that was here, and he made it work. He made it fit to his strengths, but it was still his scheme at the end of the day. The Kyle Shanahan, who likes to run a lot of 2 running backs, the background of a guy like Jay Gruden that runs kind of that West Coast, a lot of angle routes, right? You see when you watch the film, very similar. Trius, Matt LaFleur, you know, over there with Green Bay. So that's the background of a guy like Sean McVay. It's still his scheme, and he fit it to a guy like Jared Goff. Had the second highest play action rate in the NFL at 32.5%. Jared Goff last season led the league in play action touchdowns. He was 4th in yards last season. I mean, he's got all these play action stats because that was the scheme of Sean McVay. It was a lot of play action. And notice is that when they did spread the field out, when they did play some of that shotgun, when they did do things sort of that were similar to what Jared Goff did back in college, they had one very big flaw. Now, after the 2018 season, the Rams, they started to adjust their offense a little bit. They ran a lot more 12 personnel. They ran some more 13 personnel, specifically in red zone situations. Changed their offense a little bit. They adjusted a little bit because obviously teams were catching on. One major issue that I noted when I was looking through this is that when they would spread the field out, when they would go to shotgun, they didn't have a rushing threat. What do I mean by that? I mean, Sean McVay did not run the ball when in shotgun. It was the lowest in the league, not surprisingly, 9%. 9% of the shotgun snaps last season, they ran the football. Only 9%. That means there is almost no threat. And before, it was even worse. In 2019, it was 5%. In 2018, it was 4%. I mean, he almost never ran the football in the shotgun because that was not really how the team was built. It was built in his scheme, and it really wasn't built that way. So when they went to the shotgun, it made them very one-dimensional. Now, at Cal, that wasn't the case because, of course, you're playing, almost exclusively in shotgun pistol formations. There was a rushing threat because the scheme was built around Jared Goff. I definitely think there were some similarities between the way that Jared Goff played back at Cal and how the Chargers offense looked last season with Justin Herbert. That's one thing that Anthony Lynn does extremely well. He'll adjust to his players, but for a guy like Justin Herbert, it's his first year in the league, he would run things that he did back college. He would put him in a situation that he was comfortable, whatever he was comfortable with. That's the difference between Anthony Lynn and some other offense coordinators. Anthony Lynn is saying, hey, look, and he understood this back with the Bills. I'm going to listen to the player, I'm going to trust them, and we're going to do what they're comfortable with. And that's exactly what he did with Justin Herbert. He had Justin Herbert running read options, RPOs to get the run game going. He had a lot of quick hitters, just like Jared Goff did back at Cal. He ran a lot of things, and he took a lot of things from what Justin Herbert did at college to make the transition much, much easier for him as a young quarterback. Anthony Lynn will do with Jared Goff. And watching some Jared Goff, I saw a lot of similarities between the Cal offense and the offense of the Chargers last season with Justin Herbert. I could definitely see them mix in some of those rollouts, some of those designed rollouts for Jared Goff to get him to the outside, rolling out, throwing on the run. He's fantastic throwing on the run when he's comfortable. In designed rollouts, he does really well there. He loves the quick hitters and the RPOs. It's something that you rarely saw from the Rams because they didn't run the ball. But RPOs were a huge part of that Cal offense because that was one way to run out of the shotgun while also setting up a quick hitting pass if it was there. Takes you back to your college days. But the thing is, Anthony Lynn will do that. He'll do that if that's what you're comfortable with. He's all about putting the quarterback best situation. Whatever they play the best with, we'll do it. He'll mix in those like I said, the pistol formations. That's where I think the excitement comes in with Anthony Lynn because he's done it so many different ways. Doesn't matter how it looks. He just wants the quarterbacks to be comfortable and the players to be comfortable in the scheme. But that's a very big problem. Not having that rushing threat when you're in the shotgun, when you're spreading out the field, was very tough for a guy like Jared Goff because there really wasn't that threat. Heck, a lot of times they wouldn't even go show play action because there's really no need to because they didn't run the ball. It was a shock when they would run the ball in those situations. Statistically speaking, when you look at Jared Goff's stats under center versus playing out the shotgun, yes, his stats are better under center, but that's because that's where they actually had a rushing threat. For example, last season, Cam Akers had 10 carries for 22 yards with Jared Goff out of the shotgun. That's 2.2 yards a carry. There is no threat there. Don Wolford took over against Arizona in their final game of the season, and he ran a lot of his snaps out of the shotgun. Only 4 snaps weren't in the shotgun formation, and because that, their running back had arguably the worst game of his season. He had like 21 rushes for 32 yards. This is a terrible efficiency game for the running back position. But again, because I don't think that the team was necessarily built around that kind of scheme. It was built around Sean McVay's scheme. Of course, he's going to be better under center, and he was really good under center. He made it work. They both made it work together. He was very good under center because they ran the ball so well. It worked. They were able to take pressure off of Jared Goff. It opened up a lot of things. But now the shotgun, not having that threat was a very big problem. And Sean McVay didn't even attempt it enough for it to be something that could scare defenses. So you couldn't set up play action or anything like that. But you can definitely run out the spread. Actually, a lot of people will say that running out of the shotgun and spread formation is better than running when you have it under center. Statistically speaking, on average, last season as a whole for the NFL, it was 5.3 yards per carry when ran out of the shotgun versus 3.8 yards per carry when ran under center. All right, so big difference there. Now, of course, situations matter. If you're running out of the shotgun, it could be one of those situations where you're down by a lot, you're handing off a draw, that could add up some yards. But still, 1.5 yard per carry difference is a very big difference, and that's because you have lighter boxes. Because of the way Sean McVay's 11 personnel scheme is set up, basically Todd Gurley was able to run bananas because it made the box very light how his scheme was set up. Now, where does Anthony Lynn come into play with this? Well, what did the Lions say this offseason? We're kind of building this offense around Jared Goff's vision, like how Jared Goff wants to play, where Jared Goff is comfortable. And I think that quote that Anthony Lynn said hits on it perfect, saying, hey, I realize this is a player's game, and that requires me seeking their inputs, in this case, seeking Jared Goff's input, and trusting what he tells you, what he likes to do, and building that way. Now, this was back in 2016 with Buffalo. And what did that mean for Buffalo? Well, it meant they had a guy named LaShawn McCoy, who had his best yards per carry of his career, 5.4 yards per carry that season. He was fantastic. But that's because you had a mind in Anthony Lynn, who is a fantastic, he is an exceptional run game mind. That to me is going to be a very, very big key for a guy like Jared Goff. Sean McVay's offensive scheme was more of that West Coast style play action. That was the offense scheme, a lot of under center. And for a guy like Jared Goff, he played well in those situations for the most part. Through 2018, he was really the best quarterback in the league in play action situations. They did it a ton. He had over 100 passer rating, 1,400 passing yards. He was very successful in 2017, 2018, running that play action. But what you notice is that it took a pretty big step back in 2019. 2019 just took a step back when he was in these play action situations. His passer rating dropped down to an 82.9. He had only 675 intended air yards. And out of the play action in the past, it was where they could take shots. But like we said, they lost some pieces in 2019. They lost some weapons. Their offensive line took a step back, and their rushing attack was not the same. But this is why it's good for both sides, because for Jared Goff, in a beautiful situation where the offense was clicking at all cylinders, Goff was able to be successful in an offense that he didn't even run in high school or college, yet he was still able to be successful in that kind of offense. But let's start with the Rams side first. This is why Sean McVay, you ask Goff, why is Sean McVay so excited that he has Matthew Stafford? Is he overly excited? No, he's not overly excited. It's an opportunity for him to choose a quarterback. We're talking about the same big Sean McVay that brought Kirk Cousins onto the scene back in 2015 with the Washington Redskins. This was a former fourth-round pick that basically took off with Sean McVay. In 2015, 29 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, over 100 pass rating. Fantastic. 2016 was good as well because he played that West Coast offense, under center, play action. That was the offense. And we've seen Kirk Cousins play with the Vikings. That's what he does now. We talk about how Kirk Cousins is so efficient with the Vikings, and that's really when we saw him brought onto the scene, and Sean McVay brought him onto the scene as a fourth-round pick. And like we talked about the success that he had with Jared Goff in that same scheme. But Jared Goff, coming out of college, coming out of high school, was not built for that kind of scheme. This is not what he did in the past, so it was new for him. But this is why Sean McVay is super excited. He's excited because now he's getting a quarterback that is built for this scheme that Sean McVay likes to play. Coming out of college, Matthew Stafford was a pro-style quarterback out of Georgia that had a big arm, super aggressive, just like Sean McVay wants to be. A big reason why Sean McVay jumped onto this Matthew Stafford hype train so much, it took place back in 2019 when Darrell Bevell came into the Detroit Lions and brought some of that West Coast play action system, and Stafford thrived. He had the 19 touchdown passes to only 5 interceptions halfway through the season, on pace for 5,000 yards. He was putting up this incredible season, and during that time, we only averaged 3.3 yards per carry as a team, so we couldn't even run the ball. There was not even a rushing threat, but yet Stafford still found a way to be successful because he was just that aggressive, and that's the kind of offensive system that Stafford's built for. We talk about all the time, Stafford's an aggressive quarterback. He's going to turn the ball over, but that's how he plays. He plays aggressive, so he's going to make up for that because he's going to get the big play. That's the offense that Stafford was built for, and he's had a bounce around between a lot of offensive minds. Now Sean McVay gets to bring that guy into his team that fits the scheme. Last season specifically, Matthew Stafford had 13 touchdowns on 20-plus yard passes to 6 interceptions. Meanwhile, Jared Goff had 4 touchdowns to 6 interceptions in those same situations, and he was much less aggressive, specifically in 2019 and 20 when the offensive line took a step back, when they lost some of their weapons. Jared Goff, he was successful in 2018 and 2017 specifically in this play action offense. He was very successful under center because they had that rushing threat. It was how the offense was built, and it was playing at such a high level around him. He was also successful. It's like, hey, my happiness is nothing against Jared Goff. We had our good moments. But I think ultimately the way that Sean McVay looked at this is like, hey, this is an opportunity for me to basically choose a quarterback that's going to fit my scheme, that has great talent, and get him in this situation fits the scheme that I want to run. We talked about it. The big problem with the LA Rams is that they didn't have that rushing threat out of the shotgun. Back with the LA Rams, the reason they didn't run out of shotgun, the reason it wasn't successful, because the team wasn't built for that. It was built in McVay's image. It was built with the Todd Gurley's running back. They eventually got Cam Akers because of the injury, but it was built in that image, and Todd Gurley is not a good shotgun running back. However, Todd Gurley is a good pass catcher and he could pass block. So that's why they didn't run the ball. But he had tons of receptions when Todd Gurley was there because it went to the shotgun. They just threw the ball. They didn't run out of those spots. 2017, Todd Gurley, when he was the NFC Offense Player of the Year, averaged 2.7 yards per carry out of the shotgun. That's it, 2.7, that's all. Didn't even get that many opportunities. He only ran the ball 32 times out of the shotgun. But under center, he averaged 4.9 yards per carry. Level brought in Adrian Peterson when he was with the Detroit Lions. Adrian Peterson was a very big comparison for Todd Gurley coming out of the draft because of a similar play style. Peterson was not a very good shotgun running back, but he was very good when a quarterback was under center playing basically that downhill type of game. Now Jared Goff has that experience of playing under center, playing play action. Actually, he actually went to a training camp when he was a quarterback with the Rams, trying to kind of redo his footwork, trying to get in a situation so that he could make this thing fit because it was going to be a long-term fit. But with this coming available, with this opportunity for them to go get this quarterback that Sean McVay knows will fit his scheme, now it's an opportunity for two guys that think alike to fit in beautifully together. And for Jared Goff, this is why it's going to work better in Detroit. What Jared Goff is going to do this season is going to be with what he's comfortable with, because for the first time for Jared Goff, it'll be the first time you're building around Jared Goff and what his strengths are, not putting an offense in place and then putting Jared Goff into it. You're actually building around Jared Goff. And we go back to that point that I had earlier when Anthony Lynn was with the Buffalo Bills. I said, hey, look, Anthony Lynn will run the ball out of the shotgun, out of the spread, and there will be that threat. So you can do both. What do I mean by that? Well, back when he was with the Buffalo Bills and LaShawn McCoy was there, he ran the ball 40% of the time out of the shotgun. 40%. Compare that to 9%. That's the high for Sean McVay. He ran it 40% of the time out of the shotgun with the Buffalo Bills. And like we said, it was the best season ever in terms of yards per carry for LaShawn McCoy because he knows how to make these guys successful because he has different ways to do it. He can do it out of shotgun. He'll do it out of pistol. People think because you go to shotgun, you can't run downhill. That's why the pistol was invented, because you still can run downhill. The only difference is the quarterback is now not under center. That's what Anthony Lynn will bring to the table, is that kind of expertise and that fit for a guy like Jared Goff. And because of his experience playing in coaching in different offenses, doing different things, it's going to make this offense multiple. This isn't to say that, okay, Lions are going to play our shotgun. No, they're not. Okay, they're going to play under center still because, like Jared Goff says, he still wants to mix some of them because now he's comfortable doing that because he's done it for so long. They're going to mix this in, but it's going to fit Jared Goff. Anthony Lynn with the LA Chargers last season, we remember what he did. Justin Herbert and how fantastic of a rookie season Justin Herbert was able to have, but they played our shotgun about 65% of the time, which was about league average. And when they were there, he was there, they ran the football 22% of the time out of the shotgun. So 13% up from what Jared Goff had. So it fluctuates. If he's with the Bills and they're in a situation where he has LaShawn McCoy and that's kind of the starting offense, he's going to make it work. He will adjust his offense based on what's working. If that means pass heavy, run heavy. If that means under center, if that means playing out shotgun. So that's why they're leaving it multiple. With Anthony Lynn and Jared Goff working together, you can kind of already see the picture coming together. You can see both sides and their influences. When you look at a guy like Anthony Lynn, and you see a lot of similarities to kind of what he had offensively with the LA Chargers. When you talk about Hunter Henry at the tight end position, we have TJ Hockenson. Henry was second targets last season. Hockenson had over 100 targets. We know he's going to be a huge part of this offense. And Jared Goff went to Gerald Everett a lot because that is a very tough matchup. It's a matchup problem. It's a mismatch. You're going to go to that a lot. So you can expect Hawk to get a lot of targets. He may lead the team in targets. And then you have the running back position. And this is something that both Jared Goff and Anthony Lynn has utilized a ton. Anthony Lynn with LaShawn McCoy, he had a lot of targets. Austin Eckler had a lot of targets. And then you look at Jared Goff, like we said, 1 year Todd Gurley led the team in receptions because out of shotgun, he just threw the football. He didn't run it. So Jared Goff likes to throw to his running backs as well a ton. And now you have DeAndre Swift and you have your Jamal Williams. We've heard about the tough matchup. Their ability to line up in the backfield, but also at receiver, going to be where you get those matchup opportunities. And then at the receiver position, I think you see a little bit of influence from both. I mean, we have the fast receiver. We have, our Tyrell Williams, like the Chargers had Mike Williams. They're both Williams. We have that big, fast receiver on the outside, really that deep threat. But then we also have Rashad Perriman. Both of those guys also take you back to Jared Goff back in college when he had those bigger, faster receivers on the outside that he really didn't have with the LA Rams. And remember, back in college, Jared Goff was a guy that took a lot of shots, specifically in his last year at Cal, and he had those kind of receivers out there. So he'll take the shots, and you get those guys that can stretch the fields, the Khalif Raymonds, the Tyrell Williams, the Rashad Perrimans. That is when Jared Goff will take the shots down the field, and that's where I think we'll see those guys get utilized. And of course, you have those matchup problems. You have those guys that are so crisp with their route running. Last season for the Chargers, it was by far Keenan Allen who had just tons of targets. For the Lions, he won't have as many targets. Amon-Ra St. Brown, you look at the Quintez Cephas, a bit of a Cephas, kind of your route running, those crisp route runners. I look more at St. Brown. His ability to line up inside, outside, just like Keenan Allen, runs routes extremely well. Really tough to match up with. Kind of see in terms of personnel how lines are doing this. And look, Anthony Lynn has been a very balanced type of offensive coordinator that will go shotgun, under center, run, pass. He's very balanced, and that's why they're calling it a multiple offense, because they're going to do a lot of different things based on the matchup, as you should. You base on what the team is you're playing against. I watched them against the Dolphins. You know what they did? They threw a ton of screens. You know why? Because the Dolphins like to blitz, just like they did against the Rams. So they just went out there and they threw a ton of wide receiver screens. They just buy their opponent. If their opponent can't stop the run, we're going to run it down your throat. That's what we're going to do. We're going to take advantage of the mismatch. If you can't match up with tight end, good luck stopping Hockenson. If you can't stop running backs when linebackers get matched up with him, Swift and Jamal are going to have a big day. All right, you better have someone that keep up with St. Brown out of those breaks. So that's the thing. He's a very balanced offensive mind. So I can't say this is what the offense will be. This is exactly who's going to get targets, but I can tell you it's going to be balanced. The effect that both of these guys have had and how it's starting to really come together. Heck, we just heard yesterday Chad Hansen was hired by the Lions, a guy that Jared Goff played with at Cal, right? So there's a direct connection between those two. So that's just another part of that influence. But Anthony Lynn is also not like Sean McVay in the thinking offensively. The background for Sean McVay is run a lot of play action more than anybody else. And that's how it worked for Jared Goff, because that's what their team was built around. But the difference is with Anthony Lynn, that's not how he does things. He only ran play action 26% of the time with the LA Chargers and Justin Herbert, only 20% of the time with Tyrod Taylor. It's closer to what Jared Goff did before he got to the NFL and worked with Sean McVay, because back in college and high school, it was much more of a minimal play action attack. Doesn't mean it's going to be shotgun all the time with Jared Goff. The difference is they're actually building around him for the first time ever. And now he's going to say, this is what I'm comfortable with. This is what I want to do. This is how we're going to build the offense. And that's how they're going to take this approach offensively. Having a guy like Anthony Lynn means that he'll make the run game successful no matter what we do offensively, because he can do that. He's just that good at it. And he's going to get the best out of the rushing attack. And he can actually run out of those shotgun sets and make that a threat like he did when he was with Wills and did it 40% of the time, because he can mix in pistol. He'll mix in different shotgun looks to make it successful. Jared Goff gets an offense built around him. Stafford goes to LA Rams, where now they're on the same page. He's in the right offense, and McVay saying, oh my gosh, I got my quarterback. And credit to Jared Goff for being able to make it work, even though he never did it before. So now that experience is with him, that's great. But this will fit both sides long term. And I think that's why you start to see struggles from a guy like Jared Goff, because once that running game struggle, once the blocking unit took a little step back, once they started to lose some weapons, they continued to run the same offense, and Jared Goff took a little bit of a step back because by nature, by heart, that's not his background. That's not how he plays the quarterback position. It's different for him. So without everything playing at a high level around him, he didn't look as good in that type of scheme. But now it's a good answer for both sides, because Stafford played in a worse situation than what Goff is in and played exceptionally well when in that kind of offensive position. I want to take a look at his game last season against the Green Bay Packers. So they play the Green Bay Packers in the divisional round. They lose this game 32-18. But I want to show you a lot of his spread clips when he spreads the field, because he looks comfortable in these situations. I saw the same thing against Tampa Bay. This is where he looks like he has full control over the offense. Those two will mesh better. But for a guy like Goff, now with a new beginning with a guy like Anthony Lynn working together on this could mesh even better, which is scary to think about. So I want to take a look at some film. Now, Jared Goff will make a lot of pre-snap adjustments. He really has control over the offense in these situations. Someone told me to check out the Bills game. I saw in the Tampa Bay game. You see in this game as well. He's got a lot of control, and you can see him make a lot of adjustments pre-snap when he's in these situations. To me, I think this is what he's going to want to get back to. Not all the time, but he likes this. I think this is where he's comfortable. I think that's where he got comfortable with Cal, and I think this is just kind of the offense that he likes to play in. So he likes these situations. But again, you want to have that rushing threat, and that's what the Rams really lack. But he likes these situations to me. So you can see he's adjusting a few things here. So the Packers are only going to bring a three-man rush, which is very important. If you bring a three-man rush, you should be able to protect. Now, because they're not doing this on a third down, they don't have all their linebackers and pass rushers out there. So if you're going to do these kind of things, you want to do it on early downs. That way you can get in these situations where you have matchups. See, the first matchup is a slot position against 91. Can't think of the guy's name for some reason, but that's a matchup to Jared Goff. You can see him looking over there before the snap. He also notices they're in a split safety coverage, which means the middle is usually going to be open if you can kind of spread those safeties out, if you can move them. So watch this play develop. It's pretty cool. I like this one a lot. So this interior defensive line is going to show and then he's going to drop. Now, this is an issue, you guys remember against the Dolphins where he threw a pick, but the Dolphins rush a lot more. See, they only bring 3. So the offensive line should hold their own in this situation. You got a double team block here. They should hold their own. Now, he's looking to this matchup right away because it makes sense. Like, yeah, he's going to beat him. The issue, however, is this defensive line drops to take that away. But then it's about Goff understanding where the safeties were pre-snap and where the coverage is going. So because he's looking this way, you can see the safety jump down. He realizes this route, and this pushed the safety out of position, and now there's no help back. And then it's this route at the bottom of the screen that Goff goes to. Goff knows where the route is. He understands the play, and you see him go right back to it. He's got time in the pocket. This is why you want to give Jared Goff time in the pocket, because like we said, he's one of the best passers in the league consistently when this happens, no matter the year. This is 2020, and look at what he does. So he's got a nice pocket. He's able to go back. He attacks where the safety was, right over the middle, just lead your receiver, and he's running. Knowing where your other routes are, knowing that second option is, okay, this isn't there, here's where I'm looking for the football. And in that situation, he may have noticed the safety came down, and he noticed that was there. And he's going to attack in a very similar spot on this play as well. Again, you're going to get another split safety coverage look, which again, that can lead the middle of the field open. And that's exactly what happens here. Make some adjustments. In this situation, a little bit more of a quick snap here. Doesn't really wait for everybody to get set defensively. Kind of snaps it. You see the linebacker and safety are still discussing things, but he snaps it. They're moving already. And he starts left. He kind of pulls the linebacker a little bit out of the position, and then just right here as the safety's backing up because of this deep route. It's a good play design. He hits him right over there on the post. So again, it's just the eye movement that can kind of move players out of position. But unfortunately, after those big plays, what happened? This is the issue with the Rams, and it's an issue because Goff, he can thrive in that spread scheme, as we saw from these first 2 plays. The issue is that they don't have a threat to run out of it. They didn't have a threat to run out of these situations, and they didn't run. So because of that, when you wanted to run the football, had to go under center. Average 4.5 yards per carry with Akers under center. All right, so here we are under center, and they go to 3 straight run plays, all under center, 3 straight run plays, and that's how this drive ends. So you go from an offense that was passing the ball, moving the ball in the field, and you stall because you run the ball 3 straight times. They look to go for it on 4th down. They only need a yard. He probably would have got it, but guess what? You got a false start penalty, so that play comes back, and you take the field goal. So that drive with a couple of big plays in the middle is shut down because you go run, and false start, and we're taking a field goal. That's how that drive ends. That's not a good way to end a drive. The 2nd and 7 situation here, this edge is going to come anyways. Really, they're looking for this quick hitter at that slant spot. The issue is that the offensive line doesn't pick up here in pass protection extremely well. Now, they bring in extra blitzers, so there is 5. Mess up here with the offensive line. So you have 2 guys blocking 1, and Smith comes in free. What should happen is the lineman probably should take the inside guy, and the running back could take out the outside rusher, and it would give a Goff a little bit more time to look to this outside weapon, but he's not able to do that. He only has enough time to look to the first route. Fear that you're going to hand that ball. Like I said, 0 times. I counted 0 run plays out of the shotgun in this game. That's a very, very big problem, okay, because the pressure's already in his face. Now, because the leverage the cornerback has, he holds it, and that's where he's going to take a sack, and that's the thing. The Packers are really good at doing that. You got to be on top of your game, but that's the lack of the threat to have a running game there. There's no fear that you're going to hand that ball. Like I said, 0 times. I counted 0 run plays out of the shotgun in this game. That's a very, very big problem. So then here we are in a 3rd and long situation. I thought we'd just throw it in just to show you what happened on this drive. Now you're in 3rd and long, and this is where you can't get against Green Bay because they just drop everybody back. You can see he's looking. They only have 2 routes that go far enough. I mean, you got to get all the way up here. He only has 2 routes, and really you don't have either of them. I mean, you throw it here, you're throwing in triple coverage. You throw it here, might be able to throw it to the outside, and I think he's starting to look that way, but then the pressure gets in his face, so he just dumps it off to his running back. You don't really have a chance in those situations. I really do like this play design, but again, this just shows you how well Jared Goff can move pieces. He can be a little bit of a chess player offensively with the way that he can do things like this. And this is a play design that's pretty cool. They did it later and it didn't work out in the game, but this time it did. So I want to showcase that. Jared Goff being able to move defenders, this is what he does extremely well. Now, he understands what the play design is here. It's a pretty cool play design. Basically, this receiver is going to come out and kind of just, do a little curl route over the middle, basically, but that's not where the route ends because he's going to actually take off towards the middle of the field when it looks like that was the end of his route. It looks like just a basic, little kind of curl route out to the middle of the field, but that's not the end of it. But Jared Goff does a fantastic job of moving players with his eyes. So he's going to stare down his slot receiver here. Now, he does have his slot if he wants it, right? But he stares that down, understanding that I want the bigger play and that this is the play design. So him staring that down, you can see he's still looking that way. It pulls this linebacker out. And once that linebacker moves over to take that help away, Then all of a sudden he goes back to his receiver. Now the cornerback sees him look at Robert Woods. He slides down, and that's when Robert Woods takes off over the middle of the field, and that leads to a big game. But it's just Goff's ability to move guys with his eyes. This might be a better angle to look at it once again. You can see he's looking left. He waits. He pulls that linebacker. Then when he comes back to the middle, he's able to hit his receiver. Now here we go. Up tempo, no huddle. This is when he's in clear control. You can see he's telling his receivers what he wants here. Now what he's noticing when he's getting up to the line here is how soft of coverage they're playing. But he's going to hit him right on this. So this is a 2nd and 4 situation. I've noticed Goff's very good with down and distance. He understands where the distance is, and first down, second down, doesn't matter. He wants to pick that up. So 2nd and 4, he understands we only need 4 yards to get another first down here. And because of the soft cushion that they're going to play with, up tempo, quick snap, he's just going to hit him right in that cushion. He's not going to wait for anything else. He's just going to throw it as soon as it's there. He's going to take that first down. It's pretty good ball placement. And then we're right back up to the line of scrimmage. And here he is. This is the touchdown pass. Quickly just gets up there. Great ball placement away from the defender. Here's another angle of it. But you can see he knows where he's going with the football, but it's just about keeping it away from the defender, and he puts it in a great spot, keeps it away from the defender, and there's a touchdown. See, that drive was different than the other one. This drive, they said, okay, Goff, you're going to throw the last 4 passes of the drive instead of handing it off to Akers 3-4 straight times to end the possession. This is the next drive for the Rams, and they go 3 and out in this possession, and it doesn't go very far. I don't know why, but they try to bounce that to the outside. They only picked up a few yards, so now you're in a 2nd and long situation. Well, now when you spread out, now the Packers, they know this is a pass play. Take advantage of a mismatch that he might see on the bottom. And what really goes wrong here is the defender pushes his receiver down, and then all of a sudden the pass rush starts to get in, and he's taken off and he throws that away. Now you're in the 3rd and long situation, the worst spot you can be, because Packers do things like this. They put Clark here, and then they put Smith as another interior guy, and that's a very big problem because that's how they get fast pass rush. You can see the left side of the offensive line gets collapsed. The left tackle is completely beat because these aren't the situations that you want to get in. And because you need so many yards, you can see no one's even far enough. The only guy that he could have thrown it here is this route. This would have been the route that he could have taken a chance on. For whatever reason, he didn't do it. It was very tight by the time he looked, but he didn't take a chance on that route. That's the run route he could have threw there, but those are just situations you don't want to get in. We're going to up-tempo, quick hike. I mean, heck, the thing couldn't even catch it. Quick hike, this is what Goff will do, and Goff understands where he wants to go with the ball. Now this one, it's again the ability to move defenders with his eyes that he does so well. So he sees, they're basically going to run a layers route on this side. So you're going to have the flat, and then you're going to have a corner route, okay? So he snaps this very quickly, but what he does is he's just going to stare down this tight end route. He's going to stare this down. He's just going to push this cornerback to that flat for the tight end. Now the safety's on top, but with this distance, all Goff has to do is put it away from the safety, and that's what he does. So he sets this up with his eyes. Quick snap, forces that cornerback down, draws him down with his eyes, and then he just puts it to the corner for his receiver to make a big play. And that's how you got a big gain on that play for a guy like Goff. And as I said, he can move the ball down the field. This is without really that rushing threat. You can see they don't go to play action or anything like that. The running back's just going to leak out. It's going to be another example of Jared Goff moving the defenders with his eyes to put his guys in the situation to be successful. And this is what Jared Goff does at a high level. So you get that quick up-tempo snap, no wait. The defense isn't even completely set yet, but you're going to go snap it anyway. And he can see already where he wants to go with the football. He sees Sullivan come over here to guard the slot, so he knows that's where he wants to go with the ball. Sullivan's going to play very soft coverage, give a lot of cushion. So Jared Goff, understanding that it's an out route concept, he knows that he's going to have that separation. It's all about just holding basically Sullivan a little bit, and that's what he does. So he's going to start right. He doesn't look there right away. All right, he's going to start right, and by the time he does look there, you can see he plants out of his break. It's just too much separation for a guy like Robert Woods, and it's an easy pitch and catch for Jared Goff. And that's the kind of thing that he does with his eyes. Now, here's one of these play action sets, and this is why they're so successful out of it, because they run well out of it. When they run well, this is why they were so successful. The issue is they just didn't have this threat out of the spread. So Goff almost was forced to play under center and be successful, because how are you going to be successful? The fact that he had a 96 pass rating from the shotgun without a rushing attack is impressive to me. But here he is under center. This is where they have that threat, even though it's not his background, but it's where they have the threat. So play action, this one's all about ball placement, right? Because this sells linebackers. This is how you bite on a play action. Notice how all linebackers drive up and then they're like, oh snap, we got to drop. That's how you get players to bite. That's being sold on play action. Because of that, they lack depth. They don't notice the receiver route, and then it's just all about Goff putting the ball placement in the right spot to keep it away from the defender, and that's what he does well on that play. Here's another play action. and then this one he's going to take off. I just thought I'd show off some of that mobility. You know, Jared Goff's got a little scoot. Ended up scoring on that drive, so they went to like direct snaps. They did run some direct snaps. They didn't run shotgun handoff still. They went direct snaps. They basically took Goff off, and they just ran direct snaps to Cam Akers to score on that drive. They scored, but it wasn't really shotgun. It was just kind of direct snaps to Cam Akers. This is that it's cover one. Across the field. I mean, that's all it is. They kind of just cross. They both run like slants. But I like how he sets this up. So he gets 11 over here, and basically he tells these guys to fly off. Run down the field, take your corners with you, clear it out. Because see what Jared Goff notices? He notices once again, who is this? Chandon Sullivan. He's going to pick on Chandon Sullivan, just like the last play when he beat him with the out. This is all he's doing. He's doing the exact same thing here. Jared Goff is pre-snap. He realizes it's man coverage. He sees Sullivan matched up, and he's going to tell him, okay, run your corners out of the way. Get your guys out of the way. He's got a running back down here. Basically, run your guys out of the way and clear this space for an out-breaking route. And that's exactly what he does. So they're going to run deep. They're going to take their guys out of the play. And all he's going to do is just break to the outside. He knows Sullivan cannot keep up with him man-to-man. And then he takes advantage of that situation. Fortunately, this drive is going to come to an end. And they're down a touchdown at this point. So right now, you're really lacking the threat of rushing the football, again, because they're running out of the spread. So everybody knows, everybody on the planet knows, hey, you're not running the ball. And that's the issue the Rams have. And now they're going to go back to this play. So you get that drop. That last play was a drop here. It just looked like the receiver completely just missed on it. Maybe he couldn't see because of the defender's hands. I don't know. The ball may have got deflected a little bit. Either way, though, he misses the football. And then you come back, and they're going to run a very similar play, right? They're going to have this receiver kind of stop. Jared Goff's going to try to look it off, and then he's going to try to break to the middle. It's the exact same play. The issue here is because you don't have the threat to run. No one believes you're going to run the football because they can do this. So you try to set up this developing route, and the issue here is that they get pressure on the inside. Goff has no chance to get it off to that route, and he's sacked. Now you're in 3rd and long, and guess what? When you're in 3rd and long, it's game over. It really is. They got all these linebackers in here. They're going to pass rush. They're going to get after you. They're going to drop everybody at the first down line. You're going to try to run like a screen or something, but, I mean, there's nothing there on that play. And now you're down 2 touchdowns because they come back and score. So you're down 2 touchdowns with 6 minutes to go. And that was basically the end of the game at that spot. Interesting one because you can see he's trying to stare down this middle to open up a comeback route on the outside here. The issue is this safety actually comes down on the comeback route. He anticipates that well. Goff would have probably had the middle receiver, but the safety didn't move like he thought he would. It goes incomplete, and that's the end of that game. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you, Prep, for watching, and I'm out.